Kickoff is just around the corner in Como. That means the Missouri Tigers are set to hit the field, helping us break it all down and preview the upcoming 2025 season for MIZ. Jarod Hamilton of PowerMizzou, one of the best in the business when it comes to talking all things Tigers, and not just football, baseball, and basketball as well. Jarod, what's going on, man? Appreciate you taking the time and excited to break down this upcoming season in Como.
Of course. How you doing, man?
Doing well, man. I appreciate you. Jarod, before we talk about this 2025 season, I do want to look back at 2024 and just kind of set the scene for how we got to this point, because 2024 was another successful year for the Tigers. No, you don't make the college football playoff, but you win 10 games yet again. You go 10-3 overall, 5-3 in SEC play. You end the season beating Iowa in the Music City Bowl. When you look back, Jarod, at the 2024 season, how do you compartmentalize it? Was it as much a success as I'm making it out to be? Was there a feeling like, there was some meat left on the bone or just something left on the table? Or, because it's hard to be disappointed with a 10-win season, but certainly, we were sitting here this time last year, the college football playoff expectations were sky high. How do you quantify what happened a season ago?
You can put it in it depends how you want to look at it. If you're looking at it as far as they went 11-2, beat Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl in 2023, they had the preseason poll for last year around this time. I think they were 11th coming in. So there was expectations and you didn't reach that. And, there's always that thing that if the 12-team playoff was just a year earlier, they would have been in that likely. So I guess in a sense you can say it's a drop off. 11-2 and 10-3 are different. I know it doesn't sound that much, but it actually is kind of different. But it's still a successful season, especially when you consider the program back-to-back 10-win seasons that it was only done twice before. If they do it again this year, that'll be the first time in school history. If they finish as a top 25 team for the third year in program, if they finish as a top 25 team again this year, that'll be the first time in history that they did it 3 consecutive years. So you're looking at Missouri and what they're doing, and considering the injuries they had at quarterback, Brady Cook having the high ankle sprain, basically having a broken wrist, playing through that. Connor Tolson, their star center, tore his ACL, week 11 versus Oklahoma. The offense just, it wasn't the same as it was the year before. I think people, for a number of reasons, whether it's the offense wasn't gelling or maybe defenses was just a little bit more alert to what Missouri was doing, kind of got caught up a little bit, and they still were able to win 10 games. So when you think about that, and you think about what they were able to do in the transfer portal and stuff like that, that's still a great feat to be a top 25 team to end last year. I think they were 20. Then you're going into this year kind of outside of that, but you're still in the mix as one of, the better 30 teams in the country. And it could take just a couple losses week one from other teams from Missouri to be right there,
I want to move, Jarod, I want to talk Eli Drink. It's always polarizing. Got to see and actually chat with him at SEC Media Days, and he certainly always wins the podium. It felt like he won the week this week in Atlanta, but entering his sixth season in Como, I ask everybody this when it comes to the vibe around their head coach, the trajectory of the program. Eli Drink was obviously, it took a little bit to get going, but now we're in a place where I think you could argue Drink is one of the most underrated coaches in the SEC. Just talk about what the overall vibe is. You guys have a great feel on the pulse of the fan base. I'd probably say better than most. But what's the overall feeling right now amongst the Missouri fan base when it comes to Eli Drinkwitz entering his sixth season?
People like him. And like you said, it started a little slow. And then, a lot of 500. I think they went 500 his first 3 seasons, basically. So it took a minute to get going, but once he got going, it's been going well. 21-5 over the last 2 seasons. So you're winning, you're recruiting well. Starting to have consistent top 20, 25 recruiting as far as the the high school kids, and then top 10 portal team recruiting portal players. So he's starting to make all the moves. They're building this north end zone part up. It's going to be construction this year, but I think it should be ready by next season. So you got a lot of things going for you. People like Drink. He's a personality, which I feel like in college athletics as a whole, not just college football, but there's not that many coaches with personalities. It just feels like some things it's like a lot of meshed up, it's just here's the team. And I used to like that about programs back in the day where it's like It's this person, this well-renowned coach for whatever reason, and their team. And so I think Drink is one of those people where you're just like Eli Drinkwitz and the Missouri Tigers. Like, I think it's a cool thing. So people like him. The feel around the team is good. The way he feels about the team is pretty confident. They've still got, of course, a couple, position battles to work out, but they still feel really good about the team as a whole.
And Jarod, you mentioned those position battles in this football team. Let's talk about this 2025 squad. I want to start on the offensive side of the ball because I think that's where probably the most questions lie. After you lose a Brady Cook, you lose a Luther Burden, you lose a Theo Weiss, et cetera, et cetera. Bo Prabula comes in from Penn State, the transfer, Sam Horn. They are both fighting for that QB1 job at the wide receiver position. You've got Joshua Manning, Marquise Johnson, who are back. You bolstered the room with Kevin Coleman from Mississippi State and Xavier Lloyd from FCS Illinois State. Ahmad Hardy, I know, is a guy folks are really excited about coming over from ULM, taking over as the lead back. Jamal Roberts is behind him. And again, they've got a pretty deep room there as well. Brett Norfleet back at tight end, the lone returning skill position player. And you got 2 starting offensive linemen back. You did also add Keegan Trost from Wake Forest and Johnny Williams, the 4th from West Virginia. So, Jarod, I ask you, what are you expecting Kirby Moore's side of the football to look like? What are you expecting from this offense? Once again, it sounds like a lot of talent, but a lot of question marks when you lose the amount of production they did from a season ago.
It's interesting because of the position battles that they have going on. It's hard to tell exactly where you're going to go. Obviously, quarterback is the big one between Bo and Sam Horn. Still, as we know right now, it's 50-50. They had their first scrimmage last night. We were not allowed to go to said scrimmage. The media was not there. So we're going to ask about it over the coming days and see kind of what happened there. They're going to have a couple more scrimmages before fall camp lets out. So as we know, it's 50-50 on that. Left tackle, Drink is kind of even mentioned. I think it was his media day appearance the day before fall camp. It's like, that's really the battle to be looking out for. And he says that because I guess the feeling is whoever wins the quarterback job, he feels comfortable with, pretty much. Like, he feels like he has a legit quarterback battle where he's got whoever's going to be his starter would have earned it, and then whoever's the backup is still someone he thinks is basically a starter. So he's kind of like, whoever wins, it'll work itself out. But left tackle, that's one where they have a little bit more, kind of questions about that. I would think that if it was me, I probably lean on Ahmad Hardy in that running back room and see what you can do, considering whoever's going to be your starting quarterback is going to be a young guy, relatively inexperienced is what I should say, actually, as far as, snaps and playing time like that. Neither one has been a full-time starter for real. So lean on that run game, lean on Ahmad Hardy. I mean, it's not to like about him? I want to say 1,350-ish yards last year, 14 touchdowns, Sun Belt Offensive Player of the Year. He had 1,000 yards after contact. That's my favorite stat. I mean, look at Nate Noel and Marcus Carroll last year, the top 2 backs for Missouri. They combined for around 1,400 yards, like total. And so for him to have 1,000 yards after contact, I mean, that's a guy you can kind of lean on. And maybe if you want to go in the Cody Schrader route from a couple years ago, where you can lean on that run game and then you can mix in some of that pass. Whether it's Sam Horn or Bo Prabula, what I like about them is, especially Bo, really, I guess, is he's an actual running quarterback. With Brady Cook, I thought he was more of a scrambler. And so Brady can make plays when there wasn't anything there. But sometimes when they try to do the design runs, didn't really work out the same. I think Bo is actually a running quarterback who can make a little bit of that stuff work a little bit better. So whoever wins the job, I think, still fits the mold of this offense. But I would lean just a little bit because Drink loves to pass the ball. That's what his spread offense wants to do. He loves to pass the ball. But I think a little bit just kind of lean in on that run in Ahmad Hardy.
I think it's interesting, Jarod. I can't help myself, but I think that the common fan, or maybe just the common SEC fan or college football fan, they kind of look at it as, yeah, Bo Prabula comes over, he's the starting quarterback. But it's very obvious that is not the case. Like, there's a real competition going on to where Sam Horn can win this thing. I think it's fascinating for sure. May the best man win the job. On the defensive side of the football, Jarod, I want to move there. Chris McClellan, Zion Young, they're leading the defensive front, returning from last year. Damon Wilson, the second, the Georgia transfer, looking to make an immediate impact up there as well. You got Tristan Newsome back at linebacker. You added Josiah Trotter from West Virginia to bolster the room. Dalen Carnell's back at the nickel. Toriano Pride Jr. returns. He had a big year last year. You added Jalen Catalan from UNLV, who I think might be on his 17th year of college football. He's in the back end of the defense, though. Great player, comes over, great addition. And Marvin Burks Jr. also returns. Talk about this defensive side. Again, it continues, it feels like, to be a strength. Corey Batoon, successful year one as the DC. What are you expecting from them? Do you expect them to build off of what was a pretty solid year one under his leadership?
Yeah, I think they were 17th in defense, total defense last year. So that's a great start for Corey. You just got that contract extension, and so I mean, yeah, he earned it. So what I like about this defense is just I like the depth at all three levels, and what they got in the transfer portal this year. I think when I think about Missouri as a whole, when people ask, is this team better than last year's or not? I think last year had maybe more star power, more top heavy. This year, throughout the roster, I'm more happy about the depth if I was a Missouri fan, and where you don't feel like if your starter's gone, then there's a drop off at a position. Anytime we talk to Drink about that edge room, he's dang near blushing. Like he's always happy to talk about the edge room, and I talk about this a lot. In the offseason, coaches are going to build up every player, every position, and they're good, they're great. But you can really tell when someone's like really excited about something versus just doing coach speak. When he's talking about that edge, when he's talking about the linebacker room, he's genuinely like excited. Like I kind of got something here. So that's good. Safety, I like Catalan. The third level of the defense last year, coverage wise, they kind of struggled. They were prone to allowing big plays, missing tackles and things like that. I think Catalan, he's a big hitter. But he also plays coverage really well. Had 5 interceptions last year. I think he led the Mountain West. He was a third-team All-American. So I like him being back at free safety. I like the addition of Santana Banner from Northern Illinois. He's another big safety. He's like 6'3", 200. He's another coverage guy. You talked about bringing back Burks. You talked about bringing back Carnell. He was a ball hawk himself. I like what they did there. The real question on this defense is really cornerback. They brought in Stephen Hall from Washington State. He's a former team captain. He played almost 900 snaps last year. They're not going to ask him to do that this year, but they're bringing back a cornerback room with 100% of their snaps played last year and adding Stephen Hall. So feel a little bit better about that room. But if that front seven is as good as Drink keeps basically saying they are, then the cornerbacks can rest a little bit easier, and this defense can go from 17 to we're talking about top 12, top 10,
Certainly defense expected to be a strength yet again. Jarod, I want to move to special teams. I know that's a facet of the game that's often overlooked, but certainly you and I both know when the margins are so razor thin in this conference, it can go a long way between winning and losing a football game. For the specialists for MIZ, Blake Craig is back at kicker. Connor Wesselman looks like he's going to take over the punting duties, the youngster. And you got a bunch of viable options. Marquise Johnson, Kevin Coleman, just a few that can serve as viable return options. Just Jarod, briefly talk about the Missouri special teams. Again, I know over the years, I'm going back in time here, but the thicker kicker comes to mind. I mean, there have been moments where Missouri special teams has come up really clutch and come up big in games. Obviously, we think about what guys like Luther Burden did in the return game. What are you expecting from this group? And forgive me for the pun, do you expect Missouri special teams to be special in any way this season?
I think the specialist is not what I'm worried about. It's about the rest of the people who make up special teams. Like when you're punting, can you get some blocks for your players to actually return the ball? I mean, they only had 8 return punts all of last year. Luther averaged like 7.8 yards per return, which is pretty solid. And then Daniel Blood had 4 returns, but he only averaged 1.5 yards. Obviously, sometimes that's on the returner, but a lot of times it's on the coverage team and stuff like that and the blocking team. So I'm looking at that. Blake Craig, I mean, he finished last year strong. He 2 50-yard field goals in the Music City Bowl to kind of help Missouri get over the top. But 24 of 34, if he can make at least 5 more of those kicks, you feel a little bit better. He went 1 of 7 from 40 to 49 yards, and that's kind of a common area for kickers. You got to nail those. So that's the thing. Coach Drink hasn't been shy about saying, he's got to work on that. Blake Craig hasn't been shy about saying he needs to work on that. So that's something we're going to look for. He's got a strong leg. He's got a stronger leg as Harrison Mevis. And sometimes it looks like it can be stronger, and that's hard to say. But accuracy, sometimes, that's what he's got to work on. So we'll see about that. I just asked Drink the other day, punt return, you've got a lot of great options. But I've always thought it would be Kevin Coleman, and he kind of agreed without outright saying he's going to be our punt returner. He said he's going to, if we were playing today, we'd put Kevin Coleman out there, is what he said. That somebody was 18th in the nation in punt return yards at like 9.6. So quality return men, and then if maybe down the line, if they do what they did with Luther Burden and kind of pull him back and save him for offense, they've got Sean Terry, Demarion Folks, Daniel Blood, guys who can return the ball. So specialists. Oh, and I forgot Connor Wesselman coming over from Stanford. He hasn't punted in a couple years. He's my biggest question mark, actually, of the specialists. So basically getting a backup punter, that is interesting. But after spring ball, Coach Drink said he was really impressed with Connor. And so we're going to have to go with that. This is the second week of fall camp. I'll go out there later today, and we'll see a little. Hopefully we get to see a little bit more. But if he feels good about it, I'll just take him at his word. But for the most part, specialists, you're all right with them, but it's everybody else in that special teams unit that will either make this group special or not.
So, Jarod, I know it's a stat that doesn't hold as much weight anymore because we're in the transfer portal era, but for what it's worth, Missouri with 11 starters returning, 4 on offense, 7 on defense. I want to take a look, Jarod, at the schedule really quickly because, as you and I both know, not all schedules are created equally, especially in the SEC, and certainly that helps dictate what type of season you're going to have. For Missouri, Jarod, I feel like I got in a little bit of hot water with Missouri fans a few weeks ago, but it was unintentional from the standpoint of taking a look at the schedule. Again, it was no shot at all. It is a very workable schedule. Like, let's call it for what it is because of the way it sets up and how you start the season. And certainly there's some potential pitfalls. You open up on Thursday night against Central Arkansas, no big deal. You got the rivalry game week 2 against Kansas, which is going to be absolutely electric. You have another non-conference game against Louisiana before you jump into SEC play. You got that one against South Carolina. That'll really be a tone setter. UMass comes back to your place after that random weird trip to UMass a season ago. Coming off the bye week, get Bama at home. Then finally, Jarod, you go on the road October the 18th, your first road trip at Auburn, your other big road games at Vandy, at Oklahoma, at Arkansas to close out the year. Other big home dates, A&M, and then Mississippi State as well. I mean, Jarod, tell me your thoughts on this schedule. And again, I said it a few weeks ago, and I'll say it again. I mean, I think it's a manageable schedule. There's no such thing as an easy schedule in the SEC, and Mizzou shouldn't be apologizing to anybody. It's just kind of a luck of the draw thing. But this is a schedule that even with some losses and departures, would you agree, it feels conducive, in my opinion, to having a big year the way it sets up?
It does. I mean, I don't know if I've seen a team start with 6 straight home games. I'm sure it's happened, but I don't know if I've seen or heard it. So, of course, you've got – and this is even bigger because they enter the season on a 10-game home winning streak dating back to 2023. So, if any advantage you have, at least you got that. It's good to have a game like Alabama here at home. It's good to have Texas A&M coming back to your place. I mean, those were your beatdowns from last year that, kind of got the season away from them in bits. So being able to kind of get your lick back at home, I mean, that's as good as you're going to ask for. The schedule, I think it's favorable. I mean, does that, like you said, it's not easy, but manageable. That's a good word. I like that. It gives them a chance to start quickly, kind of stack up some wins. That week 4 game, that's when I feel like we'll really, versus South Carolina, that's when we will really feel like we know the direction of this team. However, and I said this on our podcast last night, that week 2 game versus Kansas has the chance to be like the 2023 week 3 game versus Kansas State, where they played South Dakota in week 1. Okay, it's South Dakota. In week 2, they played MTSU, and it was a bit of a scare. And so you win the Kansas State game, it kind of gives you that jetpack on your back to, do what you do. However, you don't win that game at Kansas State. Obviously, this is an alternative reality, but, you can kind of see a path to 7-5 or 6-6 or whatever, just because it's another Big 12 rivalry game that you're rehashing from the past and stuff like that. This being Kansas and how much they hate them in that rivalry, you kind of lose to week 2 in Kansas, where you can paint that picture of 6-6 or 7-5 real easy after that. So that's going to also be a pretty big game. But again, that's at home. They'll be able to, rally around that. So I agree with you. It's a manageable schedule. I don't don't know why people would get mad at you unless you said a little bit more. I don't know. That makes sense to me.
The beauty's in the banter, as we like to say, Jarod. I'll just no. Listen, and I agree with you again. Manageable schedule. Here's what's interesting, though, as we take a look at the overall outlook of this team. I think it's fascinating, Jarod, because I put Ole Miss in this category as well. It's almost like because they didn't make the playoff last year, after it kind of felt like the stars were aligning and maybe they were favorites to do so. You know, specifically focusing on Mizzou, there's just not a lot of talk about MIZ this offseason. Like I feel like. And I want to get your take on this. Do you feel like they're underrated? I mean, do you feel like they're being slept on a little bit? Because it's just, again, it kind of feels like people were sort of looking as last year's like, this is the year they didn't make the playoff, and it's like, okay, well, they're not really serious. Like that was their one time, that was their window, right? And they didn't do it. But you look at what Eli Drink has done. You look at the portal additions. You look at the way the schedule sets up. I mean, Jarod, nobody is talking about Mizzou as even a playoff dark horse. And going in, I'm just curious to get your thoughts. I mean, there's questions that have to be answered. No doubt there's questions that have to be answered at a lot of places. I mean, think about all the new quarterbacks. Are we sleeping on Mizzou going into the season?
Yes. I think when all that stuff you just listed out, I think there's a lot of decal bias going on. The logo on your helmet. And I think kind of to what you said, and again, another point I brought up yesterday on our pod, this means great minds think alike. As far as just overcorrection. Yeah, they started the preseason. They had that hype after winning the Cotton Bowl, and they had a small drop-off. Again, we're going from 11-2 to 10-3 as far as what they did. And people kind of saying, that was your chance. And the fact that they get the same schedule again, and now it's in reverse, and a lot of it's at home to start out with. I mean, yeah, I don't get how when the SEC poll, when they dropped the preseason all SEC and all that stuff, I don't get how they were 11th or 12th or whatever. And that's a lot of course, I'm on the ground. I'm here. I'm around the team. I get it. I couldn't tell you what a lot of the other SEC teams are doing. So I get how that goes, but I think it's a lot of decal bias as far as just like, it's Missouri. We gave them a chance last year. They didn't quite hit the mark. So we're not going to do that again, basically. But there's teams around the league that I have questions about where I'm like, I don't get how you get there. Like Florida, for example, would be my team. DJ Lagway can ball out. He showed that last year. But they were ranked 17th in that poll that came out yesterday. They've got one of the harder schedules, I believe, in the SEC. How are they just jumped to 17th? We're off the strength of just one player, and he can be that guy. I'm not saying that, but I just have questions. And it's Florida. They got that decal where you're like, you tell me they got a couple players coming in, they got a quarterback. All of a sudden, they're to the next level, stuff like that. So I mean, I get it. It's not surprising, but I do think people are very much kind of underestimating and underrating Missouri to a degree.
Jarod, I'll simply ask you in closing here, if Mizzou is, let's just say, going to be in the college football playoff conversation, whether they're at 8-4, 9-3, maybe they get to 10-2 and they do make it. If they're going to be in position to get to the later part of their schedule, which I think you and I'd agree is a little bit more difficult with some road trips, but if they're going to be in position, let's say, get into the month of November to have a chance to get to the playoff, what's got to click for Mizzou in your mind? All eyes are going to go to quarterback. We could talk playmakers. Maybe there's questions defensively, but like, is there something for you when you look at this football team? You're like, this needs to click for Mizzou to have a successful season.
The offense I'm trying to remember. I think they were 56 in total offense last year. You can't have that again. Whoever your starting quarterback is, I put it like this: if you're in the Brady Cook range of player and statistically, then you'll be fine. Brady Cook or better is good. You'll be able to do what you need to do to get in that playoff range, considering the depth you have throughout the roster, which I think, again, is better than last year, the schedule you have, and the coaches you have. So I think you should be fine. If that quarterback room, if it's not shaking out how you want to, that could be an issue. Left tackle, I think the big thing for me is going into spring ball, we was asking the coaches, like, is there a chance Caden Green, their preseason All-SEC first-team guy, can he go from left guard to left tackle? And I remember Coach Drink and O-line coach Brandon Jones was like, We don't want him to do that. Don't want him to do that. And this whole time, he hasn't worked with tackles at all. If he is at any point at left tackle, they are in trouble. So if you see that, there is something dramatically wrong with what they got going on, and that can really, take everything off the rails. So it's going to be quarterback and left tackle for me, which is ironically the top 2 position battles in camp right now. So that's the thing. I'm not really too worried about defense, and I think you'll be able to run the ball quite well. But everything hinges on getting to the playoff. It's those 2 positions.
Going to be a fun season in Como, no doubt. Jarod Hamilton of PowerMizzou, one of the best in the business when it comes to covering all things Missouri Tigers. Jarod, for those who have been living under a rock, let them know where they can check out all your great work.
My stuff at Jarod C. Hamilton on X, and then PowerMizzou.com. We're a million things coming out every single day, it feels like. So we're working. There's no shortage of content over there.
Jarod, appreciate you taking the time. It's always a pleasure, my friend, and look forward to doing it again soon.
All right. Thank you.